Started a journey on how to qualify for IOT, so I was a teacher. I can't take the politics instead. Until I say to them exactly what you just said, I said, I understand all the guys are professionals and consultants. We can just put that knowledge aside first so that we can move on with this. And that's how we're able to go on. I'm happy she said the same thing to me after 4 years. Thank you for saying this.
All right, thank you very much, Dr. Thank you, Mr. Samuel. If there are further questions, please put them in the chat box and we'll take them. So, Doctor, over to you, sir.
All right. Thank you very much for having me. And this morning, we're going to be discussing financing. Started with this finance infrastructure. So we can actually get a context. At least Islamic finance and banking most smoothly with the very two. Okay, so as a way of introduction, what we will do is we look at the banks play, and I say bank plays critical role.
Have you gotten all of them?
Yeah.
Have you opened the room? Please open the room.
Services needs to comply with the Sharia. So it must be free, like I said, of haram, of riba, of crime, and of misery. So all these things must be free of. And when I say riba, I'm interested in every form, simple, compound, complex, whatever shape and form it takes. When I say counseling of any kind, excessive speculation, like saying, I have 1 acre of the trees of mangoes, pay for it. Or I have 8 days on that tree, I pay for them. Or I have 2 tons of fish, pay for them. How many fish? How many grapes? How many mango pieces? Or what must be done? If we don't know this, we don't start putting value there and become excessive speculation. The law developing in Islamic financing service was called for integrated supervision and regulation to enable the smooth working of Islamic financial institution within the overall financial infrastructure. So now we have a financial infrastructure that looks at everything. And in some cases, like we're stating, the first level down and the second level as well as the third level down, the behavior of the workplace, in the way they have carried out their activities. We have also, the system has also put in some internal regulation to regulate the behavior of the owners as well as staff and as well as customers of Islamic financial institutions. So the distinctive characteristic of Sharia compliant financial transaction raise a number of potential risk factors that, if not recognized and adequately supervised, will result in additional systemic risk, potential jeopardizing the stability and soundness of the financial industry. People could take loans and say, okay, so I can do this and I can do this and I can do this. We spoke earlier on about the role of zero population of yeah, and that's why that law has to be in place, the banks are not in a position.
Write out this. No, not you. Write out the full meaning of AfCFTA. Write out on top, on that heading, yeah. I mean, who have you called now?
Oh, I've talked to Afro, I've talked to
Yabi. What about Yabi?
I messaged Yabi.
Call her. Call her. She responded to your message.
Just email, but she hasn't responded to the one that
just call her. Call Yabi. You can't reach her. Call the assistant. She's been corresponding with Yabi. Call the assistant. You need to get Yabi. Everybody needs to be in. They're going live by 12. We are not waiting. Do you understand? Please.
Hello.
standard so that you will not play around with it.
Tell her to come on.
Yeah, good morning. Yeah, good morning. Yeah, the webinar session for the AfCFTA is about to start, and we are expecting you to be alive. Thank you. Please reach me as soon as you can.
What is the agreement? It's called African Continental Free Trade Agreement. It's the agreement I'm talking about. Check it, not the area. Check the full meaning of the agreement. The full meaning. We call it an abbreviation. Check the agreement. Use your phone, just Google it.
Except that there are areas where I've pointed out to the taxman that here, if you continue this way, it will result in double taxation. But this is not a tax class, so I'll move away from that. So, banking supervision is generally undertaken under the baseline rule of banking supervision. Okay? And due to the specific nature of Sharia compliant financial services, these regulations are not only applicable, and institutions such as IOTA and IFST have been established as self-regulating bodies to develop standards that adequately and appropriately reflect the nature of Islamic financial transactions. The IOTA standard, as it is today, is about 8,000 pages, and those are the stuff that is easier to get to memory. Now to pass it, exams has to be back to back. So these standards aim to strengthen the international financial architecture. So in general architecture, these are the standards that cover it. So we want to develop a technical one of them.
Exactly.
So you are toward the regulatory environment which is governing Islamic financial institution. So first of all, you have a financial statement report and other useful information required by IOP and related international financial reporting, auditing, governance standards. So there is a standard, there are standards for that. Every program for every service, there are standards for this. And in the middle of that, you have Sharia groups,
Yavi is online. What about AFO? If she's online, they don't.
Good morning, hello, good morning. Yeah, this is Akinbayo from Taxi in Nigeria. I'm just reminding you that the session is about to. Hello?
Where is the thing I have to put? There's no biggie, just good.
Probably showing like this.
Just give me. It's okay. Please go to please can you stop what you're doing? Go downstairs. You see my notepads and some other things in his office. I think like CFA's office, bring them. Notepad, like a black and brown or something. Please, yeah, they are mine. What is the full meaning of the AF? You didn't type AfCFTA, it will come out.
Okay, yeah, we are joined. Oh, everything is fine. What's happening exactly? What do you need?
I just need you to give me the full meaning of the agreement, and it's looking as if it's impossible. What is this one?
Hello.
Please just wait.
Hello, good morning.
Yeah, this is not this is not what I asked you to do. There's nothing about continental agreement. Does it have an additional A? Can you see it here?
I thought that flew.
Investment account would have shareholders. For my Islamic accounting, key points there. The Mudaraba account will be reported as an investment account as a separate line item from equity and liability on the balance sheet. So just like we have the conventional accounting system, we have the IOP certification on accounting system as well that addresses Islamic finance accounting reporting system. When the Mudaraba conception is applied to restricted investment, accounts and the proprietary fund management is will be reported as an off-balance sheet item. So, these are industry building institutions. Well, I've mentioned Islamic Development Bank. I'm mentioning now Islamic Development Bank. Islamic Development Bank is a multilateral development bank. Their role is to foster economic development, social progress of member countries and Muslim communities. Part of their job is promoting Islamic research and training in Islamic finance and economic via their Islamic Islamic Research and Training Institute. So they have the AfCFTA that gives asks a lot of people to go and do different research. We are going to do one of the research for them from next week. Next week we're going to start the research for them. Look at the application of Abdul Hassan to multi-generation poverty in Nigeria. You have the accounting and auditing organization of Islamic financial
Morning, everyone.
Hello, Bessie.
Yeah, unmute me. Unmute. Hello, good morning, everyone.
Hi, Bessie. How are you?
Hi, Yabi. Nice to
It's
see
so
you.
lovely to see you.
Hello, Louis. How are you doing? Hello, Louis. How are you doing?
Yes, Mercy, I'm very fine, and good morning to
Okay, that's fine. Good to have you here. Mr. Finally, good to have you here as well.
good morning to everyone.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you for having me.
Okay, so we'll just start. I hope you can hear me very well. Can you please carry the laptops out of this place? It's simple. It's going to echo. Put it anywhere. It's going to echo. I have to tell you that. Okay. Yeah, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for being with us this afternoon. We really do appreciate everyone who has made out the time to come to this, to be with us this afternoon. And I say a very warm welcome to today's webinar. Journey to the AfCFTA. Our main aim today really is to discuss the prospects and issues that arise for African businesses as we all try to navigate our way around this continental trade agreement. we will, so please kindly be assured that we will be running a question and answer at the end of the webinar. And if you have any questions, please do not hesitate to put it in the chat box. And in the event that anything happens with respect to the recordings or your accessing the webinar, we will certainly make it available on demand to everyone that has registered for it. My name is Mercy Edukugo Amina. I manage First Fiduciary Limited. We operate within the space of the private client business. And largely, we also operate within a group of firms. Yeah.
No, as it now. The
realities of AfCFTA challenges our group. We are largely solutions-driven businesses to continue to think internationally. So the agreement itself is a regional trade agreement. It means operating outside the shores of our local jurisdiction, our local domicile, Nigeria here. We know fully well that our clients and likewise ourselves need to have as much information, education, and details to be able to go about how we are able to take the benefits that the agreement provides. We also know that we operate within a global marketplace, and as such, we should be up to speed with that. For us, we are simply anticipating the issues, the challenges, the storms that lie ahead with respect to implementation of this regional trade agreement. We are looking at resolving them, calming them in advance, all in a bid to create a smoother sail for our clients and also for ourselves whenever the need arises. From entering into new markets, to thriving, to acquisitions, to divesting of assets and all that it entails, we are available to provide premium professional services. Today, in the webinar, we'll be looking at the following: opportunities for African businesses under the Continental Free Trade Agreement, challenges to its implementation, the measures that are required to improve or fast track its implementation, as well as how the issues of lack of awareness that we currently know, because we are also participants within this market, how the issues around awareness would be solved. Now, without further ado, just to give a bit of a background to the Continental Free Trade Agreement. In 2019, the African Export-Import Bank noted that in Africa, trade between African countries were just at 16% of the total trade volume, and that made it the lowest with respect to intra-regional trade in the world, in the entire world. A contributing factor that was noted is the fact that products which could have been obtained in Africa were imported from outside the continent. And as a result of this, those products or services, they were expensive. Essentially, they had a negative impact on the continent's finances. And it meant that we had money leaving the shores of Africa rather than monies coming into Africa. As a way to manage this, the AfCFTA was created to foster and encourage business and general relationship between African countries. One of the main features of this regional agreement is creation of opportunities for African businesses, particularly for expansion to other African countries. Without further ado, we have with us our panelists today, so I'll just turn it to them. while I give a brief bio of our panelists. We have Louis Yor Aful. He is based in Accra, Ghana, and he's an active participant within the African trade region. We also have Opeyemi Akerodolu. He is with the Manufacturers Association of Nigeria. We also have Yavi. Yavi is Yavi Mandura. She's joining us from South Africa. And we have Uwem Atako. He is with us here as a legal associate. Yavi is known as she is an advocate and activist for economic and technological equality, and she's had a multifaceted career. She's the founder of Black Box Theory, a 10-year-old management consulting specializing in digital transformation. She's the founder and executive director of PABWA. PABWA is Pan-African Businesswomen Association, and the initiative is to ensure that we have gender parity in Africa. She also recently founded Tech Equal, which is a vision to close the digital divide towards economic empowerment of the world's poor, especially women and the youth. Publicly, she is also a TV host and tech media analysis for the biggest names in broadcast on the continent: CNN Africa, SABC, CNBC Africa, SABC Africa, Prime Media, 0702, as well as Power FM, to name just a few. So it's really, for us, it's really a privilege to have Yavi with us. Yavi, welcome. Mr. Louis Yor Aful is the Group Executive Director for the AfCFTA Policy Network and Chairman of the Executive Council APN Women of African Network. He's an international trade practitioner, and he's the CEO of Lobby Enterprise. He's a strong private sector advocate, participant for economic development. He's an innovator and a strategist. We are indeed happy to have him with us here. Mr. Opeyemi Akerodolu is a research economist with the Manufacturers Association of Nigeria. He provides macroeconomic policy analysis and advices on trade policies to member companies of MAN through the Director General of MAN. He's worked on economic partnership agreements and is a member of MAN's team on the AfCFTA advocacy. We are indeed very much happy to have him with us. Uwem Atako is a qualified lawyer and currently is an associate at AO2 Law, where he advises local and international clients on a wide range of legal issues related to corporate restructuring, private equity financing, company secretarial, corporate governance, data protection, amongst others. So the stage is set, our panelists are here, and we'll get right into the subject of the day, why we are here. So to kickstart it, I would like to hear from all our panelists, really, to just give us briefly their initial comments on the African Continental Trade Agreement and what they see to be the potentials that it bets for Africa. So I'll start with Louis.
All right, good morning, and depending on where you are, good afternoon, and good afternoon or good morning to all my colleague panelists and all attendees, and pleasure to be here. Okay, to start with your question, which is very broad, my initial comment about importance of the CFTA or AfCFTA to the business community is an ocean of benefits, but this is, I call it a world creation path for Africans. I call it a way of coming out of the poverty line of $5.5 according to the UN. And because I say if you divide the whole agreement expectation of revenue of about 3.4 trillion over expected population of 1.2 billion people, you are supposed to have each one of us having at least $2,833. And if you convert that to my currency, you're going to have about 16,000 Ghana cedis. That is way enough out of the $5.5 poverty line wage or poverty line spending a day. That is key, because everybody's national income is supposed to be more aggregational than we expect. So one, the Continental Free Trade, I always say that if the name mentioning is very hard, let us look at just the free trade, African free trade, because it's one single market that is going to boost our intra-African trade. Why? Because most of the export partners that Africa engages with, most of them sometimes they are turned away when they are engaged in export outside. Sometimes they say we don't meet their standards, we don't meet export standards, we don't meet standardization, and then most of them cannot export. Thank God, this agreement is going to cause us to look at inward. Maybe sometimes it's not necessarily standard, maybe because of unfair trade. And so this agreement, my initial comment and opportunity is that it is a way of looking in within. It's a way of adding value to our raw materials and trading among ourselves. It's a way of knowing our comparative advantages that each has so that we can engage in that comparative advantage or do a joint kind of trade. And finally, a time is coming that member states of this agreement will be going into what we call barter trade. Barter trade. And the barter trade is going to be where very soon Nigeria will depend on Ghana for a certain product, Ghana will depend on Nigeria for a certain product, and it's going to work effectively. And that barter trade system is also going to work based upon import substitution, where why would Nigeria import salt when Ghana can give to Nigeria, vice versa, in other regions. So my initial take is that this is a world creation agreement. This is an inward-looking chance of value chain addition or value additions or chains. This is an opportunity for a lot of startups to breathe in more because they have a larger market. Thank you, Mercy.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Mr. Lewis. Yeah, so we understand that the agreement has potentials to create enormous wealth for the people within the region. Also ability to have value addition with respect to products across different West African and also the regional market hub, as well as empowerment of the youth. So we move over now to Yavi. Yavi, let's have your take.
Hi, Mercy, and hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. Thank you to the First Judiciary team and Tax Aid for putting on this very important conversation that needs to be had. One of the things that, you know what I wanted to do? I actually wanted to start with a quote. So just give me 2 seconds. I just want to find it quickly. I wanted to quote His Excellency and our Secretary General of the AfCFTA, Wamkele Mene, when he says the global economy is facing unprecedented challenges. Africa's response must be to consolidate and advance our continental market integration objectives through the AfCFTA, because I think a lot of the times we look at Africa and Africa's economic agenda from isolated points of view. So whether that is from a national perspective in terms of country, or whether that is from a continental perspective in terms of we feel like we're separate from the world. And in terms of the way the world is going, the world is going to need us. By 2030, McKinsey has done a study a few years ago, as in 2019, to say that by the year 2030, 25% of the global workforce will be from the African continent. So not African as in the diaspora, but from the African continent, because the diaspora is already included in the current global workforce. So if 25% of the global workforce is going to be African or from the continent, it stands to reason that there's going to have to be infrastructure investment, knowledge investment, skills investment, and those kind of things from a global economy perspective because of the aging nations. In terms of the AfCFTA itself, one of the biggest conversations that are happening at the moment is this, and I'm not talking about it within the trade circles now. I'm talking, the trade circles, we kind of have an understanding of what's going on. I'm talking about it just beyond the trade circles, around from a business perspective, and they're like, the 1st of January has happened. Why has the AfCFTA not come into effect? Why aren't we seeing, you know, why aren't we having free trade? And there's that we need to deal with, because not enough communication is going out around why is it technically not in effect? Because we're going through phases, we're going through negotiations, phase 1, phase 2, etc. But that is not being communicated. So those are a challenge. But I do think that there are more reasons why the AfCFTA won't work than there are right now for the reasons why it should work or why it will work, whether it's lack of infrastructure, whether it's lack of free movement, lack of unity from across the continent, and all of those kind of things. But let's look at why we need to be positive and why it should work in theory. In the 1970s, Africa was deemed as the next great frontier. So we find ourselves once again in 2020, when this whole thing started, and now 2021, where we're now the next great frontier once again. What would be the difference? The difference is that we've got manufacturing, we've got products that we understand now that raw materials have to be converted into products on the continent. Our raw materials cannot just be leaving in order, and you've quoted the figures, so I'm not going to go there. We've got digital technology that allows us to be able to convert, translate, communicate, and effect so much more change than we did before. We have got youth that will then make up the part of the nation or the global world in terms of those resources and access. We need to learn how to give our youth empowerment. We need to give them space, and we need to let them do and be in order to ensure Africa's future prosperity. So the AfCFTA, I know we're going to talk further, so this is just an opening statement, is that the AfCFTA only works if we do.
Okay, thank you so much, Yavi. Very much appreciated. You've more or less taken a bite out of some of the questions that we are, or the issues that we are seeking to discuss for that, as in the challenges we are having with implementation. Yeah, thank you so much for the note with respect to the youthful population that the African continent is actually already betting. And yeah, so let's go on now to Mr. Okpeyemi. Yeah, please, let's have your opening comments.
Thank you very much. And I want to join my co-panelists to appreciate the organizers for putting up this wonderful event, and to sincerely appreciate the attendees, the participants for keying into the program. AfCFTA, like everyone has mentioned, is a welcome development, particularly for manufacturers on the continent. As AfCFTA, as you and I will agree that AfCFTA will afford every stakeholder an expanded market. And by so doing, we tend to bring down our costs and increase our profitability. However, from information available to us at manufacturers' end, it appears stakeholders are going into AfCFTA agreement with much caution. Much caution because of the fear of transshipment and because of the fact that, like the immediate past speaker just mentioned, that there are so many challenges that will inhibit efficient operation of AfCFTA. However, with much effort being put in place by all stakeholders to ensure that majority of the abstractions are concretized, I want to believe that the future of Africa looks good with AfCFTA. So since this is a welcome shot, I will leave it at that. We'll continue to take it from there as questions start with.
Yeah, thank you so much. Thank you so much, Mr. Okpeyemi. So, let's hear your take.
All right, thank you, Mercy. Um, I'll start by borrowing the words of the first speaker, Mr. Lewis, when he said the AfCFTA presents an ocean of benefits to countries in Nigeria or countries in Africa generally. I think the first thing I would want to speak on is the issue of unemployment. So I'll note that the Nigerian Bureau of Statistics earlier this year released its report. On the report, it stated that unemployment in Nigeria was at 33% generally. So in a labor force of about 70 million people, we had about 23 unemployed people. He also released the top 5 highest percentages of unemployment of countries with unemployment. Those were Bosnia, Namibia, with different percentages of unemployment. He also released in its report top 5 lowest countries in Africa. That was at the top of the list was Qatar at 0.1%, Belarus at 0.2% of unemployment. So it's actually a large level of contrast if you are comparing both countries. You are comparing countries with low levels of unemployment and countries with high level. So for instance, Nigeria with 33 point something percent of unemployment and Qatar with the 0.1% of unemployment. The AfCFTA serves to bridge the gap between these two countries. For instance, it provides that people that offer services in Nigeria can move to other countries in Africa to provide their services as well. That will, to a large extent, serve to address the problem of unemployment in different African countries. I know we will still discuss further on these opportunities, so I will stop there for now.
Okay, thank you so much, Uwem. So, yeah, to go back into the specifics and all that, I would want Mr. Lewis to start. So we know that really the entire execution and implementation rests with the participating African countries. Where are we with respect to having the agreements now being signed? I mean, just to kind of give us a sense of where we are. Where are we with respect to state parties executing agreements, either via their initial regional bodies or facilitated via the AfCFTA Secretariat? Where are we with respect to having some traction and being able to see processes and procedures across different borders for either persons or goods to be able to move?
Thank you, Mercy. And thank you for the initial comments by colleague panelists. First of all, let me also make this first statement that the AfCFTA Secretariat is not a Ghana thing. And the AfCFTA Secretariat is also not a West Africa thing. The AfCFTA Secretariat is a referee for all party states and all members who have signed. Now, the question you ask can best be understood if we look at what the processes that goes to it. People sign, and that is not enough. After signing, you need to move on, ratify it. It is the most difficult stage for most countries. When they sign, the ratification has to do with their legislature approving of an international ratifications. And this is where, when the people don't understand what agreement their countries are going in, their members of parliament need to be briefed. They need to be briefed to go and talk to their constituencies and constituents that this is an agreement, what is your take, so that I can go to parliament and stand on your behalf and sign. Most parliamentarians or most legislatures who do not understand the agreement finds it difficult. So most have signed, but most have not ratified. Few who have moved beyond stage 2 are full member states now, and we have about close to about 54 who have signed yes. We have close to about 41 plus who have ratified, and I think close to about 36 to 38 are full members. You see, that is not enough. I started with this because where we are is that any member country who have signed, who is at stage 2, cannot trade with somebody who is a party state. Example, if Ghana is a full party state and maybe country B is not, country B, who is not a full member, cannot trade tariff regimes with the country that is full. That is it. That's the fact. And so it is important for all members who are at stage 2 to make effort to ratify and submit the letters of their ratification. After ratifying, it's not enough. The president has appended his signature. That is not enough. Take that document signed to the AUC and deposit it. That's the final stage. Then we can have that strong intra-African trade, because if countries have reached stage 2, how will they trade the tariff? How would I send my goods to that country when I don't even know that it's a full party state? That is the difficulty. So at that stage now, we have these numbers. The other thing is that trading started in July, but let's not forget, AfCFTA did not start in January. It is the trading of concessions that started in January. The agreement says that the 22nd country that deposits instrument, that is where the agreement is in force. So the agreement was in force almost close to 2 years ago. It's when the 22nd country deposited it. And so what have we been doing since that time? So in terms of where we are, trading has commenced, but it is not all smooth as it is, because remember, customs management and cooperation was not one of the negotiated. It is part of the agreement. So we call it customs management. The single market will lead to what we call one custom union. That is easier. But until then, there will be a lot of bits and pieces of custom management at every regional play. And that should not be so, because if that is so, it makes it that maybe you have country A implementing the AfCFTA agreement at the borders or customs. You go to country B, it's not like that. It's not uniformed. That shouldn't be. And so in terms of custom issue, there are problems as it stands now with some of the countries. Why? Because some of the countries agreed at a point, negotiated at a certain point when they have not changed some of their custom laws and procedures. Now that trading has started, some of the custom member state customs have reviewed most of their laws, and they are supposed to submit those changes or review laws to the secretariat or to the AUC, so the members can be, because somebody will complain, you brought your tariff offers, I agreed with it, now I'm trying to ship this goods through your country, I'm told that you don't take that anymore. In terms of tariff concessions, where are we now? Most countries have not published their tariff offers. Tariff offers are supposed to be published, and this is the duty of the ministries of trade. There is the need for them to publish. The tariff offers is as crucial as the spirit of the trading. The tariff offers shows what you are ready to liberalize and what you are not ready to liberalize. That is very important. So in terms of tariff offers, most have sent their tariff list. West Africa went as a team, as a block. East Africa went as a block. Egypt went alone. So Seychelles went alone. Mauritius went alone. Others went alone. Other regions went together. So in terms of tariff offers, so they have. That is for the trade in goods. But when it comes to trade in services, I'm afraid that the good news is not too much there, because that area, they did not go uniformly as the trade went. And so you have some who have negotiated their priority sectors, some have not yet done it. And in fact, even those who have even negotiated their tariff, their priority sectors, it is not all areas. This is what I would say in terms of where we are with regard to some of the sections of the agreement. Merci.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Lewis. I mean, thank you for bringing it all out to the realities of what we are dealing with. Thank you so much for that. So we do know that we still have a journey ahead of us, but we are really marching on strongly to be able to ensure that this works for everyone. Uwem, I'm going to ask you, because we are in Nigeria right now, I want you to comment on where are we with respect to Nigeria's position? I mean, with respect to the agreements, the being submitted, the custom, the tariffs, everything that the required documentations that is needed for Nigerian businesses and persons to be able to effectively have the benefits of this agreement. Where are we in Nigeria?
All right, thank you, Mercy. So I would say we've actually progressed a bit from the establishment of the agreements. We have the
We can hear you, Wem. Okay, it looks like we've lost Wem here. Okay, let me just go straight to Mr. Okweyemi. Yeah, Mr. Okweyemi, if you want to take
Yeah.
that question. So I know
Yes, that's fine.
I know that you're one of the key participants in pushing for the AfCFTA agenda at the Manufacturers Association of Nigeria. So please just let us know, let us have a sense of where we are so that businesses would have a sense of what they can do and how the implementation is ongoing. Okay, Mr. Okweyemi, are you there?
Hi,
Okay.
Mercy, can you hear me?
Okay, yes, Umem, you can go ahead, yes.
All right, apologies. I dropped off for a bit.
Okay,
So I would say we've actually taken a step in the right direction by the creation of the National Planning Committee on the implementation of the AfCFTA. That committee was actually brought about by the president, that's President Muhammadu Buhari. He actually formed the council for, or the committee rather. He actually formed the committee for the committee to take charge of the implementation of the agreement in Nigeria. So far, I think the latest news we have on the committee or from the committee was the release of guidelines on documents that companies or businesses in Nigeria would need to have in order to export and import their products and goods to other countries in Africa. However, upon the release of those guidelines, there was actually I would say some form of miscommunication, because even the customs service of Nigeria released a statement saying that they were not up to date with the activities of the committee as regards implementation of the AfCFTA. So those are some of the issues that we are facing in Nigeria as regards the implementation. But so far, there's actually been release of information, particularly by the National Office.
okay. It appears we've lost OM again. I don't know if Mr. Okweyemi is back. Okay, so let's just move on. Yavi, I'm going to ask you, I mean, in South Africa, can you let us know what's going on with respect to implementation? I mean, getting goods across borders, getting services across across borders to effectively undertake these trades or implementation of the agreement. Yes.
So because I may be based in South Africa, but I obviously from a public perspective, we look at it from across the continent in terms of what are the challenges, what are the issues, what are the problems, what are the opportunities, all of those kind of things. So in terms of looking at it in terms of the cross-border, status, where is everything at? When we look at what our problems were prior to AfCFTA, the problems were, whether it was from a rules of origin perspective, whether it was from a documentation aspect, whether it was from a corruption, all of those harassment from a gender perspective, all of those kind of things didn't disappear when AfCFTA came into effect. In terms of where every country is, there are obviously different statuses and different readiness capacities, training, development, market readiness. When you look at a market readiness, for example, South Africa happens to be the most ready from a trade perspective in terms of the AfCFTA at 68%. But when you look at the Seychelles, it is 20.4%. So the ability for us to be able, and readiness obviously takes into account various factors like the two speakers before have alluded to, is that the readiness is going to go into various aspects. Governance procedures, obviously from a South African perspective, from a Mauritius aspect, is Nigeria would be better than some other countries where their other governance issues, financial structures and those kind of things are not as ready to be able to be taken in. Now, we also need to look at it in terms of Article 29 and Phase 2. So obviously Phase 2 of the negotiations for the AfCFTA is starting now. And Article 29 means that we need to start, if you haven't started already, we need to start looking at what are the things that we need to start speaking about that will go into Phase 2 in terms of that review of the AfCFTA. And we need to start creating the documentation, the narrative, the advocacy around those aspects that need to be included. So we need to go back and look at the various status. So to answer your question from a South African perspective, we are nowhere better or worse than any other country. The information with regard to the AfCFTA it still sits from a government perspective. It hasn't trickled down into grassroots level as yet. And Mercy, you and I, as women of the continent, we need to understand our role in ensuring that the information reaches mainly the women who are at grassroots level, because mainly the women are the ones that are not receiving the information and that are limited by things like communication, literacy, because 61% of women population are illiterate. So we need to start thinking about how do we start to get that information out to them, and that will then translate into readiness for each of the countries.
Okay, thank you so much for your comment. So we just go and hear from UM. UM, you need to let us know what the state of play is in Nigeria.
Thank you, Mercy. Yeah, so like I was saying, apologies for dropping off. So like I was saying, I think right now there's actually there's some disconnect between the committee as earlier established by the president and the customs agency. Another issue in Nigeria is also the issue of awareness. Not enough businesses in Nigeria know about the AfCFTA and its implications. A lot of people don't know about the opportunities that are available. They don't know that there's actually an agreement somewhere that will allow them to go to other countries and offer their products and services. So right now, currently, those are some of the issues we are facing in Nigeria as regards the implementation.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, UM, for that. I mean, shedding light on the status that we are in with respect to implementation in Nigeria. We are aware that the NOTN actually had a document that they made public about 3 or 4 weeks ago. And that document is readily accessible with respect to detailing what will suffice for some of the trading goods criteria. You have the rules of origin, you have the products, you have the types of products, the kind of enhancement. So they do have that document, but whether that document has gotten to the hands of as much small businesses, SMEs within the country, I think that's really where the work is at. So Mr. Okpayemi, I don't know if you want to jump in right now to just kind of let us have an update given that you are with one of the key pressure groups that we have in the private sector, the Manufacturers Association of Nigeria. Okay, it appears that we've lost. It appears that we've lost Mr. Opeyemi again. Yes. Okay.
Can you hear me?
Hello, yes, we can hear you.
I'm still here with you. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Apologies for the bad network. It's been a challenge. It wasn't like this before now. So, like I was about saying before the network yacked me off earlier, Nigeria has done a lot. We are not where we were before now. Like the immediate past speaker just mentioned, we've ratified, and like you also alluded to, NTN has published a document showing the state of things and what is expected to be known as far as rules of origin is concerned. And the government, particularly the National Action Committee, is currently doing so much in the area of sensitization. In fact, they are currently doing statewide sensitization. As I speak with you here in Lagos, I was at their session yesterday. They had a session 2 days ago to sensitize businesses. It was more of an abridged version of sensitization, physical, present, and some other people are also connected virtually. So the National Action Committee is actually doing so much, and we can commend them because when they were not doing anything, we also mentioned. As we speak, they are also in the process of putting together a designated competent authority. They've set up the platform already. What they are trying to do now is to get approval. Once FEC, that's Federal Executive Council approve of that structure, that will become the body that will certify exporters that are qualified to export products under the AfCFTA agreement. So, and the designated competent authority is a mixture of all concerned stakeholders. NASIMA will be involved, even Manufacturers Association of Nigeria will be involved, the Federal Ministry of Industry, and so many other stakeholders will be involved. So we are currently trying. We are not there yet, but we are making efforts, and I can say the government deserves some level of commendation. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Opeyemi. What I want to state is we do know the issues right now with our borders, with, interregional trade right now with respect to the borders, basic infrastructure that we need to be able to support this trade. Are there any updates with respect to infrastructural development, enhancements that is ongoing, or that is being advocated for, such that within a certain period of time, we can actually now say that we do have those infrastructures in place, and they are all geared at facilitating the ease of persons as well as goods across the border. So, what would be your comments in that respect?
Yeah, thank you very much. In that respect, like you agree with me that fixing infrastructure will not be a day thing. It's going to require some level of planning, and I can, as Manufacturers Association of Nigeria, what we do is to ensure that government is on their toes, to ensure that supportive environment and enabling environment is made available for manufacturers, particularly when it has to do with a continental agreement like this that we can't shy away from. So the infrastructure is nowhere to be found. We are not there yet, but government has given assurance and they displayed some level of change in terms of their budgetary provision for infrastructure facility. In 2021 budget, you agree with me that what has been allocated, though we all know that what is allocated is not always the same as what is always implemented, but we hope that if those things are actually implemented, we can actually get closer to where we are supposed to be. Though we are not where we are supposed to be, but we can start getting closer to it. But apart from that, one other thing that is also so crucial at this point is the issue of mutual recognition. Like Mr. Luis earlier mentioned, he talked about the fact that countries will always need to adjust from the initial arrangement. And part of those adjustments that they need to do is to recognize that the standards coming from Nigeria is closer or the same as the one in Ghana. So custom agencies in Nigeria will have to have the kind of mutual recognition agreement with Ghana. So likewise across the continent. So as we are facing physical infrastructure, we have to continue to talk about the quality infrastructure as well. So we shouldn't shy away from that, and we should, as stakeholders, continue to put government on their toes to ensure that everything that has to do with quality infrastructure in terms of getting it right, the structure itself is also put in place. Allocation to Infrastructure Development Act, but the quality infrastructure we feel is not up to standard, where we should have actually done it better by cooperating to actually review our standards and align our production processes to ensure that our products are mutually admitted into the AfCFTA trade. Thank you. Rest of the day.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Okoyemi. Although we did lose you with some part of your comment, but we understand that the Manufacturers Association of Nigeria is actually at the forefront of ensuring that the infrastructural framework that is required to be able to enjoy the benefits of the agreement is actually being put in place. Okay, Mr. Lewis, I'm going to ask you now, with respect to Ghana, sorry, excuse me there. With respect to Ghana, you want to comment on, sorry, excuse me, how the awareness is going on in Ghana?
The question, sorry about that. I think Ghana, the private sector, the CSOs are working so strong to really augment the effort of the state agencies. In terms of sensitization advocacy, it is also ongoing. There's a lot of stakeholdership capacity building, and the lead agencies are doing a lot of capacity building for stakeholders, business community, investors, exporters, importers. And the media is also playing an active role through conferences, webinars, programs to sensitize people. Beyond that, there is also situations where, if you take the Export Promotion Authority in Ghana has really boosted this whole campaign by expanding, let me use the ordinary words, exportable products. They have added more so that people can really go through the value chain supplies. You also look at an agency like Exim Bank. The Exim Bank is mandated to support the export of products. So it's an encouragement and kind of inspiration to exporters. Then again, you look at the standardization and certification boards. They are also making it easy for startups and SMEs. I know some of the registrations for quality assurances were very high, but that they are looking at it to support SMEs because they have to take advantage of this. You talk about custom management. They have been positioned, customs and other National Chamber of Commerce have been positioned and conferred the authority to issue after certificate of origin. and to take people through what it entails to apply for the certificate of origin and how to go through the procedures. So you heard of the case where two companies in Ghana on the first day of trading really did send their shipments outside Ghana. These are some of the things that so far the momentum has gathered in Ghana. In terms of national strategy, the Ministry of Trade has come under serious collaboration with the, let me say the presidency, because to establish what we call the ministerial committees to bring a national technical groups together. And my network is pleased to be one of the 5 of the technical working groups. These technical working groups are standby to support their technical expertise, recommend, and it is factored into the national strategy. So at this stage, Ghana is on the national strategy in implementing what we call the BIAT. The BIAT is the pillars that have been recommended by the African Ministers of Trade in boosting intra-African trade. So don't let it surprise you that you can have an African party state or AfTA member state who does not know how to strategize to benefit from AfTA. The fact that you are a member does not give you 100% assurance you benefit. It is important to establish your pillars or the BIAT well. And the BIAT is in theory, but you have to put firm it up and put the flesh around it. And so that is the difference between underperforming countries and some. We are steadily moving with our BIAT, boosting intra-African trade. And critical example is trade facilitation. How goods will move from one end to another. How are the borders being managed? I'm happy to announce that AfCFTA Bank is pushing for a single transit bond. If you take the whole world, we have 32 landlocked countries, and Africa alone has 16 of them. So how under trade facilitation will goods move? So in Ghana here, we are expanding our rail system. And I'm hoping that when it reaches Burkina Faso, Burkina will do a joint one to enter Dakar. In terms of inland port, Ghana has built a recent one to be commissioned at the north of the country or middle belt to help transits. All these things are things that, as I said, practical momentum that will show that really countries are determined to really implement the agreement. This is the state of Ghana's own as of now. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Lewis. It really does appear that the Ghanaians are really ready to take on Africa in respect of trade. I want to ask Mr. Okoyemi, if you're there, I want to ask you, what are the existing, with respect to the Manufacturers Association and the issues that has come to fore over time, what are the trade discrimination practices or the tariff barriers that as a manufacturer and exporter of goods in Nigeria, we should be happy about with respect to this agreement?
I don't think I get your question correctly. Are you talking about non-tariff barriers or tariff barriers?
Yeah, non-tariff barriers. I'm talking about non-tariff barriers. I'm actually trying to say, let's have a sense of where we are coming from and what the future is going to look like here. So what are the existing practices that your members have had to navigate their way around that the agreement is coming in to create a lot more cohesive processes and facilitate the trade?
I get you correctly now. Yeah, the AfCFTA agreement is coming to put in place a tariff-free environment. Before now, what we used to have is a series of custom roadblocks across the trade corridors. But AfCFTA is coming to dismantle all that. Before now, if a manufacturer has to export goods to Togo, you can probably meet as many as 200 or even at times more checkpoints. And all these checkpoints tend to add to your costs. AfCFTA is coming to remove all that. And also, before now, the issue of transshipments is a big deal. And AfCFTA should eliminate that, but we are hoping and we are praying and we are working to ensure that the concept of rules of origin, to ensure that products that are qualified to be traded on AfCFTA corridor are actually manufactured, if not completely, substantially manufactured on the continent. Because before now, what used to happen is have people bring goods from other parts of the world, bring it to their country, repackage it and rebrand it and tag it made in so country. So AfCFTA is trying to ensure that the concept of rules of origin is well enshrined to ensure that products that will be traded on the continent are actually manufactured on the continent, because you will agree with me that AfCFTA will not be beneficial to us if what we are actually trading on the corridor are not produced by Africans. We are trying to reduce unemployment. We are trying to increase our industrialization. There is no way we can increase industrialization, we can improve our level of industrialization and increase level of employment without actually producing those goods that are traded on the continent, within the continent. And if it's not going to be traded, if it's not going to be produced completely, substantial value addition must have taken place before such goods are qualified to be traded on the continent. So AfCFTA is trying to ensure that these trade agreements remain a rule-based agreement, a rule-based that will ensure that level playing field is provided, and at the same time, products that are traded on the continent are actually manufactured within the continent. So AfCFTA is a welcome development, like Mr. Luis earlier alluded to, said boosting intra-African trade. And if you are boosting intra-African trade, you have to be mindful of boosting intra-African level of standard of living. So AfCFTA is trying to ensure that. How do we do that? By ensuring that products coming from countries to be traded on the continent or on AfCFTA is actually produced within the continent. Like I mentioned in my previous explanation and intervention, I said the issue of quality. Before now, nobody cares about quality. AfCFTA is also trying to ensure that the quality of products is of standard and is also mutually agreeable to all parties to AfCFTA. So as it is, we are not there yet, but we need to do more and ensure that we continue to work on how we will get our products to be mutually recognizable by all parties involved in the agreement. So I can say AfCFTA is a welcome development because it's giving us a room to pull off all the so-called checkpoints. Checkpoints are not there for checking and confirming standards. They are mostly there to generate revenue. So we need to do away with that. And until we do that sincerely, that's when we can get the best out of the AfCFTA. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much. Thank you so much, Mr. Opeyemi. Thank you so much for that. I just want your comments on the rules of origin. I mean, with respect to trading goods, the rules of origin, as we have it and as published in Nigeria, how practical is it? So what's the practicality of having to have the products produced in Nigeria, having the products either enhanced substantially before they can qualify for getting the certificate of the rules of, being certified as meeting the rules of origin as in criteria, given all the nuances that we understand with governance. How practicable is that? Hello, Uwem. Okay, it seems that we have lost him. Okay, Mr. Lee.
I can come in.
Okay, yes, please go ahead. Yeah.
On rules of origin, what the National Action Committee is currently doing is to ensure that there is a designated competent authority made up of custom, Nigerian Association of Chambers of Commerce, Manufacturer Association of Nigeria, NASME, and all other stakeholders involved in trade and industrial operations in Nigeria. So what the process is currently looking like is that you have to apply. There's a template of the application form, which I can probably share with us at the end of the session. The template of the application form that will be filled. Once that is filled, the designated competent authority domiciled in Federal Ministry of Industry, Trade and Investment will assess the information that has been entered into the form, and they will review application. And once they confirm that substantial value has been added to that product in Nigeria, that product qualifies to be sold on that AfCFTA agreement. So on rules of origin, what they are currently trying to do is to upgrade the skill of custom employees and all other officers that will be involved in the designated competent authority office. Once they do that, they will be able to actually verify the status of value addition, value of non-originating material. Once that is done, the product can be certified as actually coming from Nigeria, made in Nigeria, not just by adding a tag or a label to it as being made in Nigeria. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Kweyemi. Just to go on that same, what are you telling your members with respect to partnership, mergers, and acquisition? I mean, opportunities. Do you see that there are opportunities for partnerships or collaborations with other persons, such that we could have situations where if something is being manufactured in Europe or being manufactured in Asia, we can have those investments actually coming into the country, and we actually now reaping the benefits of unearthing the value that we have here. So what are the discussions around that with respect to your members?
Thank you. As an association, what we've been preaching for the past 3 months, or even more than that, is that there is need for manufacturers to start seeking collaboration, not just with third-party countries, as in not just with countries outside Africa, with countries even within the continent. Because as it is, AfCFTA agreement allows for cumulation principle. If 10% is produced, 10% of a particular product is produced in Nigeria, 20% is produced in Ghana, 10% is produced in South Africa, and it meets the 40% threshold that is expected before a product can qualify. Such products will qualify to be traded on the continent. So in view of that, we are also encouraging our members to seek collaboration, go into joint venture agreements with companies or firms producing similar products across the continent. Particularly, there are some countries that are well endowed with some of these raw materials that are needed for the production of some of these goods. So let's go to those countries, collaborate with companies in that country, and ensure that our products are jointly produced. We've added value in Nigeria. Certain value is also added in that country. We can qualify and expand our businesses. So we are not averse to collaboration. And in fact, the message has been around that, has been the need to open joint venture. In fact, open liaison offices across the continent, sales units. In fact, our exports group, they currently have one export house in Lomé that more or less act like a clearinghouse for all goods and all goods coming out of Nigeria. So that is the line we are doing. We want to break into the continent. We've been operating at the regional level under ECOWAS ETLS. We want to go into AfCFTA. Although we all know that the issue of competitiveness will always be an issue. That's why the issue of infrastructure remains a source of concern to us. And we are hoping that governments stay true to their promises to improve on trade facilitation.
education infrastructure, and all other physical infrastructure required to ensure that goods are effectively moved around the continent. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much, Mr. Okoyemi. You've really enlightened us with respect to how collaborations, partnerships can actually ride on this agreement and the opportunities that are there. Could you speak on how resolution of disputes framework operates? I mean, if there are disputes as regards the agreements and what it seeks to achieve, how are parties set out to resolve those disputes?
All right, thank you, Mercy. So, first of all, the AfCFTA does not provide for sanctions to erring state parties. It seeks to generally gently bring together state parties of the African Union generally who have signed and ratified the AfCFTA. So it is actually very subtle in its approach to disputes and punishments. It's essentially puts essentially focuses on mediation and negotiations between state parties. So another feature of the AfCFTA is that it seeks to bring state parties together, generally, essentially to form an international or intracontinental dispute resolution body, which will serve to look at in the instance of any disputes between state parties under the AfCFTA. Such intracontinental body would look at the issue and then issue adequate decisions to resolve such disputes. So for now, I believe that we still don't have that body in place yet, but I believe that steps are being taken towards forming or establishing that body. The body essentially will comprise of different people from different state parties. So it won't be just one state party that has a majority of members of that body. So people from different countries essentially have an opportunity to form part of that body and essentially give decisions, wholesome decisions in the event of a dispute between state parties. But for now, I don't think such body is in place. I believe in the nearest future, that will definitely be put in place.
Okay, thank you, Owen. So Yapi, quickly, while we encourage our participants to ask their questions, we have the question and answer section. So please do post your questions. We would be attending to those questions shortly. Yavi, we understand, or the agreement seeks to bring to fore the need to actually have a focus on women within the continent. I mean, to kind of ensure that the businesses and services that they provide actually is protected and highlighted, and the benefits actually accrues to women. So I just want to know, within your network, what are the additional measures that are being taken to ensure that the African woman actually stands to benefit from this agreement?
So it's a brilliant question because there's two parts to it. The first is that the agreement itself does not reference women or gender or youth at all from a prioritization perspective. So when we speak about wealth creation from the AfCFTA, there is no specification with regard to gender except for Article 3E, which literally just refers to gender very, very generally. It's one line and 6 words. So that's the only reference to gender within the agreement itself. If we move to the content of your question, when you speak about, but it does have the impact on women more than anyone else, that's exactly true, which is why it didn't make sense that there wouldn't be anything in the agreement. But that's exactly true for 2 reasons. The first reason is that most women make up the informal sector across Africa. And therefore, trade and formalizing the trade informal sector becomes opportunity, it creates an opportunity for us to be able to formalize the informal sector and thereby benefiting women in terms of the AfCFTA. In terms of what we are doing, there are a couple of things. I won't talk through everything because this is not my platform. So I'll give you the highlights, and specifically let's look at it from a West African perspective. In terms of West Africa, you are the largest largest country on the continent. You have the biggest or the largest GDP in terms of $500 billion. So it's a case of looking at it from your aspect. There are, from a manufacturing perspective, you have the biggest opportunity in terms of women to be able to create that gender empowerment or that gender financial inclusion in terms of the West African nations or that West Africa region, specifically from a Nigerian perspective. In terms of looking at it in respect of the supply chain management, when we look at supply chain, West Africa, because of the way everything is structured and because of the way the supply chains are structured from a West African perspective, you have the best opportunity in terms of gender and youth to be able to structure and allow that kind of freedom from a financial inclusion perspective. So to answer your question now in terms of directly, what are the opportunities for women to take advantage of the AfCFTA? Manufacturing, digital and digital. So those women that are, and this is for everyone, not only for women, but women need to think about this a little bit more, is that from a digital perspective, there are massive opportunities that women who are restrained or constrained by, not being able to work because they got to stay at home and look after the children and those kind of situations, they then have the ability to be able to use digital as a way of accessing trade and the trade agenda under the AfCFTA. The other aspect of it is that women can look at it in terms of funding. So when we look at funding and access to finance, women have more opportunity right now because every single funding agency on the continent in the world is wanting to empower women. So these are just a few of the things that we are looking at. We look at communications networks, we have skills development programs, we have access to funding and funding networks, and we are looking at it from a media perspective. We're actually running the AfCFTA Media Fellowship as we speak in partnership with the Secretariat. So there's various types of projects that are going on from a gender aspect. You'd have to follow us to get more information. But yes, to answer, to give you a highlights of the various aspects of it.
Okay, thank you so much, Yavi. So we'll quickly just take some questions, although most of those questions have been answered, but I want to ask Louis, we have a question here that says the incidental consequence of the free movement of goods and services is also the movement of people and families. To what extent has this been provided for?
Let me touch a few points. Let me take you back a bit. The issue of rules of origin is about 81% ready. In other words, it means that it has been negotiated fully. Now, that rules of origin, there was a question like that. The rules of origin is after rules of origin. The African Continental Free Trade Agreement did not come to do away with existing regional policies or regional activities. It came to augment it, but to come under one umbrella. Now, the rules of origin is based upon preferential treatment. What it means is that whatever you do to country A is applicable to country B. However, any third country that brings in a third party will go through the tariff issues. That means that The 81% that is ready is because of one particular clause that is not fully negotiated, that has to do with value addition. The value addition and the AfTA is about 61%. 61%. What it means is that Africa cannot always produce all her products. So you import from certain raw materials. And the agreement is saying that once you import those raw materials to augment your production, whatever you finish, at the end of the day is capped at 61% and not beyond and not below. So it is in place. Again, the issue of dispute settlement. Agreement stipulates the host country to start the empaneling. So the host country will empanel. They will prepare a roster, and that roster, like the previous colleague said, they will prepare a roster. That roster will feature the category of people who are supposed to sit on it per adjudication. In fact, they don't want it to reach the issue of what do you call it, a kind of trial. It's all about mediation. One thing we have to realize is that when those parties are not comfortable or they don't accept settlement and they want to move it to an appellate jurisdiction, then that appellate jurisdiction might not be necessary within the host country. It could go to the African court or whatever it is. That is also a process that is there. There is a whole document on dispute settlement. Then coming to your question, if I had you right, you were asking about, can you just remind me that one?
Yeah, the incidental consequence of,
Yes.
of the free movement of goods and services is the movement of people and their families. To what extent is this provided for?
Yes, in fact, that is one of the spirits of the agreement. It was based upon the Abuja Treaty of free movement of people. Let's look at it in the context of the Agenda 2063 of the African Union, where the Continental Free Trade is one single phase of it. Then from the free movement of goods, from the AfTA, we are moving to the next stage, which is custom union. Right now, custom union is not negotiated, it is management. The agreement tells in the articles that it is based upon management. So we will get to a point where we have one African passport and all that. So this one was based upon the Abuja Treaty, whereby free movement of people is part of the agreement. It is supposed to be implemented by the member states. Some countries have sent their visa waiver lists. We should go beyond just sending the list of countries you want them to come freely to your country, to where they should have access coming from East Africa, they can come to West Africa, from West Africa can go to East Africa. That is the optimal goal of the agreement. So yes, it is provided free movement of goods, because capital have to go with the people have to follow their goods. So whilst the goods are going, there's a need for some movement activity. And the agreement says that that person will have the right of residence, the right of establishment as well. What it means is that if I'm in Nigeria and I have to be able to move to Mauritius or Madagascar to establish a business, I should be able to go under the protocol of free movement of people. It's just that it is progressive. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much. Thank you so much, Mr. Lewis. We have a question here that talks about the whether the AfCFTA supersedes the ETLS framework or makes it redundant. Uwem, do you want to take that?
All right, thank you, Mercy. So one of the beautiful features of the AfCFTA is that it does not put into redundancy the other agreements that were there before it came into existence. Rather, it serves to work hand in hand with such agreements. On that question, I would say the AfCFTA does not put into redundancy other agreements, other regional agreements, or the ELTS. Rather, it serves to work hand in hand with those other agreements to liberalize trade of goods and services in Africa generally. So you remember that the ultimate goal of the AfCFTA is having one market for Africans. So, however, the AfCFTA is the only provision that serves to supersede any other agreements is, I think it's Article 19, where it provides that any provision of any regional agreement which is inconsistent with the provisions of the AfCFTA will be void or put into redundancy. So it is only that particular provision that is not consistent with the provisions of the AfCFTA that will be void. The AfCFTA does not put into redundancy the entire agreement, but only that provision. So far, both agreements actually work side by side in order to reach the ultimate goal, which is trade liberalization. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. We have a question from Orewa Blessing, and she's asking of the benefits of the agreement to supply chain industries. Yavi, do you want to answer that? Hello, Yavi.
Sorry, Mercy. I'm having problems with unsticking my mute button. Yes, Mercy. So when we look at it in terms, I think I did answer her. I think I did.
Yes,
Was this
yeah,
the
yes,
one?
I think that, yes, yeah.
Was this the one that I answered?
Yes, I think, yeah, it was. It was.
Oh, okay. Okay. No, I just wanted to check. So when we look at it in terms of the supply chain, it was a case of if we look at what Nigeria contributes. Nigeria contributes an estimated 76% of total trading volume in the whole of the ECOWAS region, right? So when we look at it in terms of the ECOWAS treaty, which provides for that free movement of people and goods. So when we bring it down back to supply chain, if you look at producers and retailers that are expanding, their operations into other markets, that would depend then on that distribution network that would allow that the efficiency of delivery of goods for the intended market. So you would look at the ECOWAS region, but under the AfCFTA, we need to expand and look beyond that from a supply chain management perspective. So this would then you would need to look for investment into distribution, logistics, supply chain, because and especially into infrastructure regarding transport of goods and services. So when you look at it, the people that would benefit the most, because that's what the AfCFTA is about. The AfCFTA is an investment tool that we need to leverage. As much as it's a tool for us to be able to activate, it's also an investment tool to be able to get investment into our regions, countries, communities, to leverage, to build, to create either infrastructure or manufacturing centers. So the investors who invest in logistics and transportation in terms of goods and services, to cater for those large volume of goods and cross-border trade would be the full winners out of that. So when you look at your supply chain and you look at how that would need to expand, those are just the key things that we would need to take into account.
Okay, so yes, we have some questions here. Mr. Akpayemi, I'm going to kindly ask that you answer this. It says, are there opportunities for high-skilled manufacturing? Now, we don't have a definition of what Idris Yusuf asked the question. We don't really understand what it means by high-skilled, but it's possible that there is a general understanding. So he said, are there opportunities for high-skilled manufacturing? Then related to that is, are women and the youth, from where you sit, are women and the youth preparing to take advantages of services that are not popular within Africa? So maybe new ideas, new innovations, how is that being driven?
Thank you. I will perhaps ask the questioner to possibly give further information. But I saw the question on the platform too, and I've been trying to get any information on high-skilled manufacturing. What I know is light manufacturing and all sorts, not high-skilled. So I will require clarification on that.
Okay, so he has clarified. He said that high-skilled manufacturing, like phone and electronic gadgets manufacturing.
Okay, yes. In fact, under our association at the moment, we currently have AfriOne, a company, a Lebanese company that is into phone and electronic gadget manufacturing. They are here in Lagos and they are doing so well. Their product is currently being accepted, being produced in Nigeria, gives them the opportunity to at least bring down the cost. Though the issue of trust, of standard is still an issue, but with time, they can build that, work on their strengths and ensure that their product is accepted. But as at the moment, members are actually going into that. And before now, guys around Yaba, Akoka area in Lagos are also into tech, and they are doing so well in terms of gadget manufacturing. Not necessarily phones, but other electronic and electronic gadgets required for day-to-day operations by offices and individuals. So as for the readiness of youths and women to take up opportunities that are not necessarily popular before now, you know, one thing I like about this country is the fact that we are always ready for change, and we are always ready to take on opportunities. So the youths are ready, and in fact, that was one of the reasons why the issue of border closure hit so hard on Nigeria the last time, because the women are particularly so much involved in cross-border trade, taking up goods from Nigeria to neighboring countries and bringing up goods from Ghana to go to Nigeria as well. So I can assure you, as many opportunities as are available under AfCFTA, the youths are available and they are always ready. The women are there and they are always ready, because even with all the constraints at the moment, they are still doing and they are still ready to make available opportunities.
Okay. Thank you so much, Mr. Okweyemi. We have a question here from Orewa Blessing, but really, Orewa, with respect to how the platform you have, how it can be tapped in. Yes, Yavi has answered and noted that you look at the trading services, and really having a platform that can address the pain points or the issues that manufacturers have. I just think that that is a good way to go. So you really need to go into the target market and start creating as much awareness on the value proposition that your platform provides. Yes, so thank you so much, everyone. So we are almost running out of time, so I'm going to give everyone a minute each and really ask our participants to kind of just bear with us. We are rounding down and closing out very soon. So we'll ask each participant to give us, to take a minute each and just generally give us recommendations as regards how businesses can best position themselves and how they can also take advantage of this continental trade agreement. So I start with Louis.
Okay, I thought you said participants.
No, I actually meant panelists.
Sorry.
Yes, apologies.
I would like to read this in terms of the question that was asked earlier. It was very important. Whether the regional existing blocks and the regional economic corporations and AfTA. What is the relation? Article 5, the principle says, the AfTA shall be governed by the following principles: driven by member states of the African Union, and B, REX free trade areas as building blocks for the AfTA. So it's, as I said earlier, it came to build upon that. Then with the issue of that Yavi talked about the women. The initial goal of the agreement was to focus on trade in general, and everybody was all inclusive. If you look at how the agreement was framed. However, I visit to the Secretary General, gives me hope that they are trying to push for the traditional protocol for women. That has to go to the heads of states, the General Assembly, for adoption. And so even though he is interested and key in seeing that happen, it will go to the heads of state at a summit to be adopted. And I'm sure this year, the Secretariat will organize a very big conference on women. Finally, for my case, I would like to encourage the youth that startup doors are opened. They should engage in associations and joint ventures. Afrasian Bank has positioned a lot of money, in an ordinary man's words, a lot of money to support financing agencies within member states who will then finance associations, who will then finance SMEs. That's good news. They are also donating a lot of money to invest in the creative art industry, about $500 million. The creative industry in Africa is untapped at all. Then the services industry. Finally, in trade in service, you don't have to be in another country to do those. So those youth who are very good in ICT, this is the best opportunity. You can be in country A and still discharge your services under the general agreement on trading services. And so this is the best time. This is the best time to identify a product, identify a market, identify and create a leverage and the synergies. When you identify these two, you're good to go, because then the institutional support that you will need to let your product be unique, the value chains, and get interested in agribusiness. Because African Development has estimated that in the year by the year 2030, we are going to go into about 3 to 4 trillion revenue benefit from agribusiness alone. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Mr. Lewis, and thank you for the clarification with respect to the focus that is being put when it comes to trade on women. Yeah, thank you so much for that. We do hope that the protocol goes through, because really, like we said, or like he said, a woman has, a woman has the capacity to actually raise up a nation, when she's empowered to do so. Mr. Opeyemi, I just want you to give us your closing remarks. And I also want you to mention also within the network, what the, we have to talk about trade facilitation with respect to finances and ease of doing transactions, banking transactions, and the like. So what is the status of that? Being able to have traders pay for their goods, seamless funds transfer, seamless payments and systems. So what is being done in that respect?
Thank you very much. I want to sincerely appreciate the organizers for putting up this event. It's been a good one. And I must also commend my co-panelists. They've actually contributed, and their discussion have been very well on point. On the payment system, AfrExim Bank is currently working on Pan-African payment settlement platform. So the project is currently being tested at the moment, and from next week, according to their chief strategist, that product will be tested in both Ghana and Nigeria. They've shortlisted those two countries in the West African region to actually see how efficient it will be. It will be like a clearinghouse of central banks across the continent. So payments from one country would, as well at every point in time, at every transaction, be cleared on that platform, and that will be used to effectively facilitate trade. So, are we still together?
Yes, we are. Yes, we are. Very well.
Okay, so the AfrExim Bank is a leading bank when it comes to AfCFTA agreement. They are doing so well, and they are doing so much. So this Pan-African payment platform, if it's a success like we are hoping it is, will facilitate effective exchange of goods and services across the continent, because you will need to carry Naira to South Africa to trade. You will need to bring rand. You will only need to have money in your accounts at AfrExim Bank. And once that is done, once you have that at a particular agreed rate, you can easily pay your supplier or your other party in any other country on the continent. So in closing, AfCFTA is here, is a welcome development. We are all open to it. We need to just build more capacity to tap into your available opportunities. So the challenges are there and they will always be there. But one thing we need to do, start doing as businesses, is how to realign our business model with AfCFTA provisions and tap into the opportunities that will expand our businesses. Thank you
Yeah.
very much.
Fantastic, Mr. Okweyemi. Thank you so much for, I mean, you just, I know Louis also mentioned the financing that Afrexim Bank is actually putting forth. I mean, the financing of trade is, I mean, that's an area that is very well covered. Now, we also understand that there's going to be a test run on the platform, on the financial, on the platform that really does facilitate the payments for the goods and services. So that kind of takes a lot of the bottlenecks that you would have. So it's really left for us to now sort out the hardcore infrastructure with our borders, as well as transportation and other hard infrastructure that has to be put up. Thank you so much, Mr. Okweyemi, for that. And businesses are really to align, they are encouraged to align their businesses now. So you have to go back and realign your business model to take advantage of what the AfCFTA provides. That's really, really very much instructive. So Yavi, please, let's have your closing comments.
Thank you, Mercy. Thank you to everyone. Thank you to all the panelists, my co-panelists. Thank you, Mercy. So to go back to Louis' aspect in terms of the Women in Trade Protocol with the AfCFTA Secretariat, PAPO has actually been driving or lobbying for the Women in Trade Protocol since March, April last year, before the SG even got to the AfCFTA Secretariat, and it will form part of the phase 2 negotiations in terms of getting that Women in Trade Protocol ratified as soon as possible. But obviously, as Louis said, it has to go through all the heads of state who have ratified and those who have submitted their instruments for ratification. So that is coming. However, it's not a case of waiting for it in terms of waiting for permission. In terms of funding, I don't know if anyone knows this, but the IMF has approved, from an SDR perspective, has approved $650 million in terms of developing countries around the globe, obviously, but Africa being the most in terms of developing countries. And that is for debt relief, but also in terms of investment into those developing countries. So that is going to come forward. If we do not take advantage of that from an AfCFTA development and investment into infrastructure, then quite honestly, we're just stupid. You know, we're not going to look at it in a way that creates wealth. So we need to be able to look at how we take advantage of those SDRs. The last time the IMF issued an SDR like this was in 2009 only. And I think the last two things that I kind of want to say is that from learnings out of COVID and the fact that COVID impacted the world so immensely and Africa so immensely. But when we look at Africa, my president, but my South African president, however, in his capacity as the AU chair in 2020, has been invited by the G7 to give feedback on the unifying aspect and the management of COVID on the continent, because technically Africa managed COVID better than any other country in the world. And Africa is not a country, it's a continent, however, from a collective perspective. The reason I'm raising that is because for the first time ever since forever, the unifying aspect of Africa was the reason why we managed COVID the way that we did. Now, if we can come together under those circumstances, from a unity perspective in terms of AfCFTA, we really need to understand how powerful that can be. We've proven we can do it. This generation of people have proven we can do it. We can do it going forward. And the last thing that I want to close off with is to say, when we look at the currency issue and the finance aspect and all of those kind of things, the African Monetary Fund, to create an African Monetary Fund, and there's a whole paper about it and whole economic development aspect from assets around it. You look at that and you look at how potentially we could actually fast track certain aspects without necessarily looking at a payment system or waiting for a payment system, which we know is coming via the AfExim Bank, but also in terms of that whole one currency, one passport scenario. So there are various things that are on the peripheral that we also need to consider as we move forward in terms of the AfCFTA that are going to come, will get fast tracked, that are not necessarily on our radar now, but they are coming. Thank you, Mercy.
Yeah, thank you so much, Yavi. Thank you so much information. Thank you so much, Yavi. Let's have your concluding comments, please.
All right, thank you, Mercy. So I'll just I'll just re-say what you earlier said when you spoke about the African Export Import Bank, the 16% trade record in Africa, which was actually quite low when compared to the other trade or regional trade areas of the world. The AfCFTA is actually a welcome development to look into issues like this. I mean, if we have countries in Africa who are providing a particular service or who are providing a particular product, why then do we need to go outside of Africa to go and import other goods that we could have gotten in Africa at even a cheaper rate? So the AfCFTA comes to address issues like that. Um, Resulting from that issue is also the finance issue, because of the trade by countries getting products and services from outside Africa when same could have been gotten inside Africa. That inevitably affects our finances as a continent. So if we reduce the level of international trade, well, if for products and services that we can get in Africa, I think we should also promote, as a continent, we should also promote intra-African trade. Another issue I would want to speak on is the issue of unemployment still. The AfCFTA inevitably also affects unemployment when it creates one general market in Africa. So if you are a service provider or a business in Nigeria, you can also offer your services to other countries or consumers in other countries. That will also serve to address the issue of unemployment and essentially boost the finances of the country. So what steps should we need to, or do we need to take? I think I'll just give two things we need to do individually as countries and as a continent. So the first one is that there should be a collaboration between the government and the private sector. So before any decision is made by the government, they should actually consult with business leaders in the private sector to see how best to implement policies and put policies in place to further the implementation of the AfCFTA. Another solution is which was even part of the reasons why the AfCFTA was established, is the promotion of interaction between service suppliers in different countries. So the AfCFTA essentially says if you are providing services in Nigeria, you can also collaborate and interact with another service provider in Ghana, in Kenya, in any other country in Africa, essentially to expand your services in that country. So the AfCFTA to this extent also addresses unemployment and helps businesses in Africa in their expansion. So generally, I think businesses in Africa should look up to the AfCFTA. Sorry, just let me just extend on that. Language of the AfCFTA, it puts about 80% of the work on the government of the state parties. So they as well also have a lot to do by way of awareness, by way of implementation of policies, by way of establishing policies to implement the AfCFTA to its full potential. So we've made some progress from January till now. There's still a lot more work to be done. Like one of the panelists said, this is not a day's job. It's actually a progressive thing. So let's hopefully by the end of the year, we'll see the We'll see the low percentage as reported by the Africa Exports Import Bank. We'll see a drastic increase in that percentage, hopefully, with the implementation of the agreement. Thank you very much, Mercy. Thank you everyone for your time.
Yeah, I mean, thank you so much. Fantastic work for me, fantastic comment, fantastic information coming from our panelists. And really, we have to appreciate the audience. We have to appreciate the participants who have stayed with us for almost 1 hour, 50 minutes now. So I would just say a big thank you to everyone. A big thank you to Louis. A big thank you to Yavi. A big thank you to Mr. Kweyemi, as well as Uwem. You have really, 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 really made us, giving us as much information that we need. So as businesses, in rounding up, what we would say is, as businesses, we are encouraged to really put ourselves out there and also ensure that we are actually retooling, remodeling our business model to be able to take advantage of this market. This market has been created, and it's not the government that is going to take advantage. While we push the government to do what they need to do with respect to infrastructure, getting the right participation of the private sector, be able to make sure that protocols that are needed and all the legal requirements that are needed are sorted out at the governmental level. We ourselves, as the businesses, we are actually encouraged to take advantage of this, spread the message, get it across to as much of our populace as we can. The AfCFTA is an investment tool. We have heard that it's an investment tool. It's actually targeted to help Africans create wealth for Africans and take Africans out of the poverty line. So, and we also see it is also because as Africans, when we come together and we are unified in coming together, definitely we are able to excel, and that we can see from what was done with respect to the pandemic. Then we are also aware that when it comes to financing, businesses do have those finances. And when it comes to platform to facilitate payments and everything that goes in that direction, there are actually work ongoing for that. So as businesses, we are encouraged to take advantage of this. So thank you so much to our participants. Thank you so much for your time. We do wish you a lovely, that you enjoy the rest of your day. And hopefully we will come back with use cases, test cases of what has actually been done as we go into the year. Thank you so much, everyone. Thank you so much to the panelists. So do enjoy the rest of your day, and see you sometime soon. Thank you so much.